Welcome back, and thank you all again for tuning into our special episode on genetic diseases. Next up, we'll be discussing Marfan syndrome. To give us more information on the disease, we have here in the studio today Mr. Austin Carlisle from the popular rock band Of Mice and Men. Austin. As you can probably tell by my shirt, I'm a huge fan. It's an honor to meet you. For those of you who don't know, Austin, who's currently 26, was born with Marfan syndrome. Can you tell us a little bit about your diagnosis? How did you find out you had Marfan syndrome?
Well, when I was 17, my mom passed away. She was my whole life. The band actually put out a song in her honor called Second and Severing. But anyways, after she passed away, the doctors realized what she had, and then figured out that I had it too. Things got super hard after that. I was really into baseball. That's all I even cared about. Ever since I could walk, I was playing baseball. Well, when I found out that I had Marfan syndrome, I was told I had to quit sports. The doctors gave me a laundry list of things I couldn't do anymore, like no roller coasters or lifting weights. However, quitting baseball eventually led me into music, so I have Marfan's to thank for that, I guess.
You mentioned that the doctors realized what you and your mom had. How did they figure it out?
There's actually no test as of right now to officially diagnose someone with Marfan syndrome. The doctors just use context clues. My mom and I had both had a bunch of the symptoms.
What exactly are the symptoms?
Marfan's affects three major organ systems in the body: the heart and the circulatory system, the bones and muscles, and the eyes. Some of the symptoms are pretty obvious. You could probably tell that I'm really tall. I have elongated fingers and toes too. My arm span is longer than my body height. I have a long and narrow face and really flexible joints. In addition to all of that, I also have heart problems. It's really common for people with Marfan syndrome to have leaks in the valves that control blood flow through the heart. This causes shortness of breath, fatigue, and irregular heartbeat. This can also cause the aorta to weaken and stretch, creating a bulge in the blood vessel wall. This is known as an aneurysm. This can also lead to a sudden tearing of the aortic wall, known as aortic dissection. These can be both life-threatening.
I remember that you said you had heart surgery back in 2010. Can you explain that?
Sure. In 2010, I had what's called an aortic valve sparing replacement root surgery. Haha, that's a mouthful. For the surgery, my chest was cut open and my heart was stopped for about 2 hours. Somebody else's blood was getting pumped into my body during the time. It was insane. Anyways, the doctors took out a pretty big chunk of my heart and replaced it with a cylindrical piece of metal. They then put my heart back in, put metal bars all through my chest, inserted a pacemaker, and sewed me back up.
How did this affect you as far as the band goes?
I took leave from the band for about 6 months. During this time, I had to regain my strength through rest and rehab. However, as soon as I got all clear to start doing physical activity again, I reunited with the band and we recorded our second album.
Wow. Well, we're all really thankful that you're okay now. What's it like living with the disease? How does it affect your daily life?
Well, for starters, I'm definitely at the doctor's a lot more often than the average person probably is. As I mentioned earlier, I can't really do much heavy exercise, even though I still give it all I've got on the stage. Other than that, however, people with Marfan syndrome can live pretty normal lives. Marfan syndrome isn't one of those diseases where the person needs a constant caregiver or anything like that. The financial burden comes in when the surgery comes into play. Since certain symptoms of Marfan's can be deadly, especially those involving the heart, surgery is often not an option but rather a necessity. Things do get tough at times, but it's something I've had to deal with my whole life. I just live my life to the fullest with my disorder. Despite having Marfan's, I really do love the life I have.
I admire how you're always so positive about things. Next question. Are there different forms of Marfan syndrome? Does everyone have the same symptoms?
Oh, definitely. The symptoms for Marfan syndrome are extremely varied in severity, timing, and rate of progression. The symptoms I mentioned before are just the ones I have. Other symptoms include a highly arched roof of the mouth, crowded teeth, scoliosis, either a sunken or a protruding chest, dislocated eye lenses, increased pressure in the eyes, cloudiness in the eyes, and nearsightedness. Symptoms tend to get worse or increase with age.
You mentioned earlier that you inherited Marfan syndrome from your mother. How much do you know about how the disease is inherited?
I know that if passed from a parent to child, the disease is autosomal dominant, meaning it's dominantly inherited. However, I also know that the disease can occur a spontaneous mutation. Through my own independent research, I've come to find that about 1 out of every 5,000 people have the disease. About 3/4 of the people with Marfan's inherit it from a parent like I did. The other 1/4 get the disease through a mutation. I also learned that the disease affects all races and both genders equally. It doesn't discriminate.
Wow, it seems like you know a lot about Marfan syndrome. That's awesome. Now, we have a few questions here from some of your Twitter followers. First off, John YDG would like to know, do you know of any other famous people with Marfan syndrome?
First off, love the name John, you dig? Second of all, there's a bunch of famous people with Marfan's. Some that I know of are Robin Johnson, the famous blues guitarist, American volleyball Olympian Flo Hyman, famous American actor Vincent Schiavelli, Mary Queen of Scots, famous Italian composer Nicola Paganini, singer Bradford Cox, former President Abraham Lincoln, American Olympian Michael Phelps, and Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun. Of course, not all the people I just listed are still alive, but you get the idea.
Next question, from Of Mice and Courtney. Are there any famous doctors or researchers that you know of who have worked on the disease?
Well, I don't necessarily know any famous doctors, but I do know a few of the earlier ones. Antoine Marfan had a patient come in and compare her legs to that of spiders. This actually led to the first name of the disease, which is Archaeodactyly, meaning spider in Greek. That might be incorrect, I'm sorry. Two other doctors, Henry Mary and Leon Barbinet, continued doing research for the disease and discovered all the symptoms. They actually changed the name of the disease to Marfan syndrome after Antoine Marfan.
Very interesting. Final question, sent from Second and Sebring 99, asks, is there any treatment for Marfan syndrome? What is your life expectancy, being that you have the disease?
There isn't any treatment that could completely cure me from the disease. However, there are things that can prolong my life, such as surgery or gene therapy. Unfortunately, my life expectancy is cut down by 1/3 because of Marfan's. However, that just inspires me to live life to the fullest while I still have the opportunity to do so.
Well, Austin, it's been an honor having you here. Thanks again for taking the time to do this interview, and good luck with your UK tour this summer and, of course, Vans Warped Tour.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Before we conclude our episode, let's get a little more info from our doctor on Marfan syndrome. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Kenny, here to give you a look at Marfan syndrome from a more scientific perspective. First off, there's actually no scientific name for Marfan syndrome. Secondly, it's important to know that Marfan syndrome is caused by a mutation on a gene located on chromosome 15. Specifically, the mutation, discovered in 1991, is on the FBN1 gene. This gene provides instructions for a protein called fibrillin-1, which bind to each other to form thread-like filaments called microfibrils. These microfibrils become part of the fibers that provide strength and flexibility to connective tissue. They also store molecules called growth factors and release them at various times to control growth and repair tissues and organs throughout the body. Mutation in the FBN1 gene can reduce the amount of functional fibrillin-1, leading to decreased microfibril formation, causing excess growth and decreased elasticity in many tissues. This results in overgrowth and instability of the tissues. Right now, research is being done to understand more about this disease. For example, research is currently being done to develop a blood test for Marfan syndrome. Another test is being done to see if the amount of mutated FBN1 present in the affected person is directly related to the severity of his or her symptoms. A third investigation is going on to test the effect that different medicines have on symptoms of Marfan's. Currently, there are a total of 22 approved clinical trials going on in the U.S. to study Marfan syndrome. Once more information is known about the disease, researchers can begin looking for a cure. For more information about these trials, please follow the link below. Thank you. Thanks for that info, Dr. Kenny. Now, folks, we're done here. I hope you learned a lot about Marfan syndrome today. Remember to check out Austin and his band, Of Mice and Men, on tour all summer long. See you next week.
Friend of mine, a revolutionary.